by any chance?
It's 5. So it's 3, yeah, so it's 3 students and 2 people with lived experience, but it does seem like other people are joining
I mean, like
early.
how many people are watching? I just want to know how stressed to be.
Oh no, it's not gonna be too huge. Our event yesterday had about maybe 10 people.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah.
Cool. But anyway, my name is Arya, pronoun she, hers. I feel like it's a very generic animal, but I would go with cat because it just really, I nap a lot and am generally a pretty mellow person. Sorry, all popcorn to Kira.
Hey everybody, my name is Kira. My pronouns are she, hers as well. I will go more specific into what type of dog. I think I would most likely be a golden retriever, just like very upbeat energy all the time, very friendly with strangers or friends or whoever. And I will popcorn to Tiana. Did I pronounce that correctly?
Yes, I'm sorry, I missed the question.
Name, pronouns, the animal that you would identify with, I think.
Tiana, she, her. The animal that I would identify with, I love dolphins. Maybe I identify with the dolphin. They're free, they're always in the water, and they're fun. I will popcorn Paris.
Hi everyone, I'm Paris, pronoun she, her, hers. An animal, maybe a bird, because I just feel like they're very free. I think a bird. And I'll popcorn to Maya.
Hi, so my name is actually, but I'll just put Maya. I don't know, but it's cool. But I feel like I'll go with a bunny. I like bunnies, rabbits, because they fluffy and they jump around a lot, and I play around a lot. So yeah, bunny. Oh, I got a popcorn to somebody.
Maybe Shreya? Is Shreya there?
Yes, I am.
Oh.
Hi. What was the question? Sorry, I think I joined like a minute late.
Yeah, it's name, pronouns, and an animal that resonates with you, that you identify with or something.
Oh. So hi guys, my name is Shreya Chaudhary. My pronouns are she, her, hers, and definitely a dog. I feel like I have very like, at least that's the vibe. I love dogs, so yeah.
Cool. And for everybody, Shreya's a senator for the undergraduate student government at USC, and she's been helping plan.
I'm actually not a senator, but I am part of USG.
Oh, sorry.
You're totally good. You're totally good, Jake.
But yeah, Shreya's been helping put on the events this week. Hi, Ashley. We saw Ashley on Monday at Abundant Housing.
Hello, I'm Ashley. My pronouns are she, her. Probably would choose a wolf. I live in the mountains. I love the mountains, and they can be either lone or pack animals. So I like the options.
Sweet. All right. Well, it's 2, but I think maybe we'll wait a few minutes to see if more people join, because sometimes people join late, and then we can get started.
I'll popcorn to myself real quick before we get started.
Oh, did you not go, Katie? I'm sorry.
No. I'm Katie, she, her pronouns. I I'm gonna do a combo animal because I have a husky mix who sometimes acts like a really cute and adorable puppy and then other times acts like a wolf. So wolf dog, and sometimes zoomy, sometimes very, very chill and snuggly. So I feel like I kind of resonate because sometimes I have abundant energy and I'm like excited to go do things. And then other times I'm very mellow and just like to hang out with my people. So
Also, while we were just talking about it a little bit ago with a couple of us, but because it's happening today, I just wanted to call attention to the Echo Park. There's one of the council members of the district is trying to organize a sweep that will remove the entire unhoused community from Echo Park for the under the pretense of they need to do renovations. But the unhoused community in Echo Park in the last year has developed a very strong community with a lot of self-built resources, and that is all going to be taken away from them. So there has been a large group of protesters at Echo Park since 7 a.m. this morning that are with the goal of stopping the sweep. So if you didn't know about it and you want to learn more, I'd check out it's easy to find stuff on Twitter if you use the hashtag Echo Park Rise Up. And there's also been statements from various mutual aid groups, and I suggest looking into it. Hi, Ali. I understand you have some resources you could share with us about student basic needs on campus.
Sure. I was not ready, but hi everyone. I'm Ali de la Cruz Hong. What's that saying? If you stay ready, you don't have to get ready. So Kat and I are here representing student basic needs, and just to hear what's going on, we know that there's so much work and awareness being done all across our campus and our community. So we wanted to come in, participate, contribute, and, learn ourselves as well. So student basic needs serves to help eliminate barriers for students. Kat can put our website in the chat as well as our resource guide. If you or anybody you know is in need of resources, please reach out to us. We'll leave our email and our Instagram handle as well, and we're happy to meet with students. We also have met with a couple of you on the call one-on-one about volunteering and other initiatives. Kira was a volunteer in the food pantry last year. And so, once we're up and running again, then, we hope you will come visit us. Good to see everyone.
All right. Well, I think we can get started. So for everyone joining us as an audience member, I'll do a quick intro. We have both students and lived experience community members who are going to talk to us today about their work and or experience, and so we can have a discussion about various issues and various resources for the unhoused community. So from the student side, we have Katie Cummings and Aria Catano, who are both from Water Drop LA. And Water Drop LA is a nonprofit organization that fights water insecurity in diverse populations across Southern California, particularly where people are experiencing homelessness and lack of access to affordable housing and resources. Katie and Aria are both co-founders of this organization. Katie is currently the director of operations and is a senior at USC, and Aria is currently the executive director. And after graduating from USC with a bachelor's degree, she's now staying around for a bit to do her master's. and I'll let you guys do a better intro for yourselves. I'm just trying to do a quick one. We also have Kira Chan, who's from the Food Recovery Network. The Food Recovery Network is a national nonprofit that unites students at colleges and universities to fight food waste and hunger by recovering perishable food that would otherwise go to waste from their campus dining halls and donating it to those in need. Kira is a junior and she's pursuing a master's of public policy. And then we also have Maya and Paris, who were connected to me through Tiana from the SOH, or Sanctuary of Hope. And Sanctuary of Hope is a youth development organization dedicated to serving transition age youth, which is age 16 to 25. Excuse me. The primary mission is to provide a caring and multicultural approach to services that will help young adults become self-sufficient and lead prosperous lives. So now I'd like to go around to each of you, and we can start with maybe Maya. If you just want to tell the audience what you would like the audience to know about you or your experience being unhoused before we get into the questions.
Okay, so with me, I was like homeless for like a long time. I experienced it for a very long time. I grew patience with it. I became very humbled with it. I learned how to like work around with it. Yeah, I could say that. Yeah, I could say that. Yeah. What else was the question? I'm sorry.
Just anything about your experience that you would like to share with us. So if any part of your personal story that you're comfortable sharing, just to tell everybody who's attending like where you're coming from.
Okay, so basically with me, I was like growing up in and out of foster care since I was 7. I was just in and out of foster care. It got to a point in time where I turned 12 or 13. I just was in a foster care, group homes. I felt like they already separated me from my mom and my dad. They wanted to separate me from my brother, and I didn't want that to happen. And then I got too emotional, very emotional, to the point where I had ended up into a mental hospital for a while. And I ended up doing my time in the mental hospital, got out, and my auntie got custody of me, and I was doing good for a while. And around that time, I was probably like 14. Once I turned 15, I was just going from like couch to couch because like, my family really didn't want nothing to do with me or my brother. So it was like, okay, I'm going couch to couch, family to family. I wasn't at a young age, I was never interested. Like I always was going through social workers, having too many social workers. And I felt like, oh, social workers, they didn't care about me. Courts, they didn't care about me. They not putting me in places that's keeping me safe. These foster care people, they putting their hands on me, they beating me, they doing all type of stuff to me. Like, so at a young age, I'm like, okay, I don't want nothing to do with nobody that have anything with social workers or DCFS or anything. Anybody that want to help me, I don't want help, period. Like, that's just how it was for me. I didn't want help. I'm like, okay, I can't wait to turn 18. Once I turn 18, I'm just going to do it on my own. I'm going to do it by myself, So at that point, I'm just going to juvenile hall, being a runaway. Then I actually like discipline myself from, hey, I don't want to go back to juvenile hall. I don't want to go to jail, period. Let me get myself together. Let me go to school. Let me, do something with myself. I'm still not with I don't have no guidance. I don't have no guardian. I'm doing all this on my own. I'm taking my time to grow as a mature young lady as myself. So I'm have all this stuff going on. I'm getting better. Yeah, things was getting better. It was getting better. I was being housed for a while, staying out of trouble. Then it got to a point where once I turned 18, I got unhoused again. Then it was like, okay, I got older. Now it's like I'm older, I'm grown now. I ended up going to jail again. I was like, okay, you can't be doing this stuff, Maya. Like, you know, you're going house to house. You need to get yourself together. Like, you know, it's other people that's got themselves together. You can get yourself out this situation. Like, I just knew I can get myself out the situation. So I'm like, okay, hey, I got tired. Like, I went to the courts and I just told them, like, you know, like, I've been in this situation for a long time. I need help. Like, I need y'all to help me. Like, I don't want to be homeless no more. I don't want to be doing nothing bad. I want help. And they sent me to Divinity Prophet. And from there on, I started doing better with myself. I checked myself in community college. I was going to community college for a while, got jobs. I started doing better with myself. Like, I humbled myself a lot, like a really lot. Like, and I've been through a lot. Like, but that was just like, you know, a little breakdown. Quick.
Thank you so much, Maya. I really appreciate you sharing your story. I think we all did, and we'll hear more from you later. Next, Paris, if you want to answer the same question, what is it that you'd like the audience to know about you before we jump into everything today?
I want to say, like, Maya, I'm so proud of you, even though I don't know you, but I'm proud of you. And okay, so I'll just give like a quick little snippet. So like me and my parents, I know this sounds like cliche, but after they had my siblings, that's when like me and my parents really didn't get along. And then I think it was mainly because of they had like a lot of problems. So like my dad was like really like verbally, physically abusive to my mom and stuff. So I just kind of knew like, okay, like she's not gonna leave. So as soon as I turned 18, like I'm just gonna leave. And this is like things like probably like 16, 17, 18, like was probably like the worst years with them. So like I would like go spend the night at my grandparents' house, or like the person I was dating, I would like stay at their house a lot. So I kind of felt like, okay, like, well, how do I leave, because I don't get along with them and like this household is toxic. So my thing was like, okay, like kind of just go to school. So I left for school at 18, and then like I was staying in Irvine at UCI. So I was staying in dorms, etc. And then like I was a RA to like help pay for dorm fees. And then COVID happened. So when COVID happened, the person I was dating at the time was like, oh, like, you know, come live with me. And because we were like, we weren't forced out of our dorms, but it was like a lot of speculations and just like a lot of things that kind of like made us forced out of our dorms due to COVID. It was like you had to have like very valid reasons to still be in the dorms, in which like mine kind of didn't qualify, and like my RA was coming to an end and they weren't going to like renew it because like they were under the impression they were closing due to COVID. So I moved in with him, and like we were fine just up until I moved in. So like when I moved in, like the whole dynamic changed. Just like a lot of like domestic violence, just like there'd be bruises on me all the time. And I kind of just didn't say anything because at the time I felt like I had no choice, because like, okay, where am I gonna go? So like kind of just like be here, save up till you like figure it out. But it just got so bad to the point where like I was like extremely depressed. I wanted to kill myself. So I felt like, okay, like this is too much. So I would spend a night at like my friend's house, but I felt like I couldn't do it to a point where it's like weeks or multiple days, because then it's like, oh, like what's going on? So I would like spend a night at a friend's house maybe for like 2 nights, and then like sleep in my car for like another 2 nights. And then like I kind of knew his work schedule. So if he wasn't there, like I would go home, shower, and then like be like, okay, like tomorrow either I'm gonna spend the night at somebody's house, or like I'm gonna sleep in my car. So it was kind of that for about 2 months. And then I just really began to like hate myself, begin to like hate life. I was just extremely unhappy. So I kind of stopped going to work, and my supervisor asked what was going on. And I just told her, because at the point, I didn't want to go to work. I didn't want to do anything. So I kind of just told my supervisor what was going on. And then she suggested that I started making police reports. So I started making police reports, but when I tell you, like, the police would say things like the first time I ever called the police told me, oh, like, like maybe you or him should just find somewhere to sleep for the night. And, like, you guys are young, like, you guys are fine. Like, like couples argue. Even when I would show them bruises, they would tell me like, oh, well, he said that he didn't do it. So we can't really take him in for something that he's saying that he didn't do. And then like it was really like, that was a mess. So then one time, like the second time the police came, I told them like, I can't do that. Like I can't just leave for the night because I have nowhere to go, And I explained that to them. And then that night they was like, okay, well, like, is he able to leave for nights? I guess he left that night. And that night I just like Googled like homeless resources, like what could I do? What could I do? What could I do? And then I kind of didn't want to tell, like me and my parents' relationship was already not good, like barely speaking to them. So then on top of that, I didn't want to tell them like, oh, well, like I moved in with a guy. So, and this is going on. So it looks like I'm going to have to come back to you guys. And like, my parents are just like extremely like judgmental. And like, I can already hear how dumb I was going to get caught and how I was never going to like hear the last of it. So when I was Googling resources and stuff, I just wanted something said like, if you're experiencing homelessness, call 211. So I just called 211. And then like, I just basically explained them everything. I explained to them like, like I've called police, like this is what I'm going through and this and this. And then they sent me, they gave me like a bunch of resources that was like based on the zip code that I lived in and then based on my parents' zip code. And one of the resources was Sanctuary of Hope. So when I first came to Sanctuary of Hope, like that night before, I literally slept in my car, and I didn't know like what the program was. The first person I talked to, I just like kind of like cried and told them everything because that was my first time crying and like letting everything out, just letting it all be on the table. And they told me what the person I talked to told me. He said that the best thing I could do right now is at least try to fix something with my parents, So in my eyes, there was no fixing, but with the help of my son, which is like one of the staff there, he basically set up like a meeting for me and my mom, and I was able to just like tell my mom the truth about everything, like with him kind of guiding the conversation and just kind of like create an open space to let her know that like I needed her and like this is right. She doesn't know anything that's been taking place for like the last 2 years. Like she only know like what I tell her. So just creating that space of me, letting her know like I have nowhere to go. This is what's been going on. Like this is how I've been living. This is like the situation in the house that I've been living in. Like I've been sleeping in my car sometimes. I've been spending night at people's house sometimes, and just like kind of letting her know all of that so my parents' house can be a resource for me. So that's kind of the snippet of like my story and what I'm currently going through.
Thank you so much, Paris. Again, we really appreciate you sharing your story and your strength and resilience through it all. So we're now going to move to Kira. Kira, if you'd like to introduce yourself and share what you'd like the audience to know about you and your organization.
Sure. So yeah, my name is Kira. I am currently a junior at USC, and I started a chapter of a national nonprofit called the Food Recovery Network. And essentially the mission or the goal is to reduce food waste as well as reduce food insecurity. And that's kind of the national nonprofit's mission. The cool thing about it is they take things down to a micro level. They allow the students who run the chapters to kind of tailor the mission to what that particular community needs. And I found that at USC, there is kind of an unspoken issue about food insecurity. And so I kind of tailored the mission as well as my current capabilities to students who are experiencing food insecurity. And what I've done in the past kind of couple years, COVID kind of took out a year of that, but in the very first year when we were operating, we were recovering food from different grocery stores, and I was really aiming to recover fresh produce and distributing them to students free of cost and kind of in an open area to ideally find a place where everyone can come to and feel like it's a safe space to enter. But when COVID hit, I had to move back home, and a lot of my volunteers were moved back home as well. So it was a lot more difficult to organize these food recoveries and food distributions. So instead, during the last semester, we kind of pivoted to try to do some research and figure out what is a better approach, you know, when we do come back onto campus to address this problem. And that's what we're currently working on now, which I can share later on if anyone has questions, but I'll start with that.
Thank you, Kira.
It's on mute.
Yeah, I don't think it's a question,
Okay.
but thank you, Kira, for sharing. And Aria, same question.
Hi, so Katie and I are kind of tag teaming on this, so obviously she'll jump in whenever. But my name is Aria, pronouns she, hers. I am currently a master's student studying urban planning at SC. Katie and I, about almost a year ago, last summer, started Water Drop LA, which is a mutual aid group that focuses on combating water insecurity, like Jake mentioned. A large part of this, it wasn't a planned initiative. It was really just in response to a direct need that we had witnessed as COVID closed down all of the water fountains that are in the downtown area. And I guess something that I think is important to know about our organization is that we run on a mutual aid basis. And by that, we mean not taking on a model of the more classic charities that is us giving to people that are needy. It's more so creating sustainable networks that everyone has a stake in, that everyone can contribute to, and working to support each other in our community. Katie, do you have anything to add?
I don't think so. I think Aria did a great job of mentioning that we try to kind of change and combat the traditional charity perspective that people take, and we try to create community and emphasize actual, like, you know, human interaction. That sounds crazy, but the amount of times that, you know, we're doing outreach in Skid Row, for example, and groups will just drop boxes of stuff on the corner and not make any effort to talk to people or understand their lives and their challenges. We've just tried to do everything we can to create a volunteer base that can go so far beyond just handing out water bottles to folks, and making sure that, like Aria mentioned, it is from the mutual aid perspective and from always a growth mindset. So I think that's all I'll add for now. But yeah, Katie, and I'm a senior at USC.
And just to further kind of contextualize some of the work that we do, currently every Sunday we purchase about 2,000 to 3,000 gallons of water from Costco and get about 50 volunteers together and assign them to a block of Skid Row. And so we have our volunteers go to every single block, get out of their cars, and just directly check on people, offer them water, and see if we can connect them to any other resources. So we've been doing that every Sunday for the last 10 months now.
Great. Wow. Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for introducing yourself and why you're here on this panel today. So now I'd like to jump into some questions. So first off, if everyone could share a moment in your, whether it be in your experience in the unhoused community or your experience serving the unhoused community, a moment that you felt like was a major victory, something that you're really proud of, or a shining moment. And we'll start with Paris. Do you have a moment you'd like to share?
Yeah, I think mine would be moving back home. So like, even though I felt like it was taking a step back, which it probably actually was, like if we're speaking as far as like life goals, but I felt like as far as like for my mental health, it was a big step forward. It really took me out of like that negative headspace of like things are not going to change. It really took me out of just it, even though I felt like when I left off to school, this was like the way my household was. It was better, like going back home was better than like what I was currently dealing with. So like personally, my biggest thing going back home was like, oh my God, like, like you're going backwards. But as far as like mentally and like for like my personal feelings, it was a big step forward. So.
Thank you. Yeah, because I imagine having social support is a big help. Yeah. And Maya, is there a moment you'd like to share of a major victory or a shining moment from your experience?
The major victory that I had was when I turned 19 and I was not homeless anymore. Like I felt like it was a relief because I didn't have to depend on anybody. And that's like one of the biggest things about me. I don't like to depend on nobody. Like, so it was like me staying out of trouble, successfully completing the last program that I was just in dealing with DCFS. That was like victory to me because it's like I completed it. Like, I don't know, like foster care, that just that word period just get to me. Like it brings up like I'm not the type of person that's emotional that's gonna cry, you know. That's something that's gonna get to me. Like if I'm out in public and I was to see somebody kids getting took away from them or something, that's when I'm going to break down and I'm going to like cry and stuff because I never like had like even now me and my mom we don't get along. Like she didn't want us. She gave us to them at a point in time. So it was like I never had that. You know, my dad was always in jail. So it was like his mama didn't want me. Her mama was on drugs. So it was like I never really had like a support system. It was always me and my brother, you know? So it was like me successfully completed something that was for me, because usually I mess things up or I'll get in trouble or something, you know. So it's like me completing that, staying in that program for 2 years, not getting kicked out, not being back on the streets, like that's a blessing. Like that really like, and then to actually have my own place now, like that really brings joy to me. Like even though all this stuff is happening to like right now, like I don't even care. I'm so humble. I don't even live. I live like a stress-free life. That's whatever happens. I don't even care. Everything happened for a reason. Like that's just how I live. Like so much stuff that happened to me, like about my car. My car just got impounded. I thought I lost my key. I paid money for a key. I don't even care. Like I just don't care because it's like other things. I know better things don't come. Like I just know like stuff, bad things are gonna happen in life and good things or better things are gonna happen in life. I know that stuff. Like, so my patience is really good. I'm very humble with myself. Like, I'm just chilling, I guess, with my life. I'm not putting too much pressure on me.
Wow. Thank you, Maya. That's great. Like I think we're all very impressed with that, with what you've done with, and yeah, thank you for sharing. Katie, do you have a major victory you'd like to share with us?
Yeah, I think that something that was a pretty big thing for us was when we got 501c3 status as an organization. And so by getting that IRS recognition as a nonprofit, it definitely has allowed us to do a lot more and look for a lot more opportunities, specifically with fundraising, because now we can apply to grants, we can apply to get corporate donations, and so many things that will help us do a lot more within the community and with our work. But it also gives us an opportunity to use that space of being a registered nonprofit, but also challenging the norms of the nonprofit industry and how that can negatively impact the work and limit the work that a lot of organizations do. So kind of using it to our advantage and understanding the limitations it creates, but also using that status to hopefully do a lot more and expand our work and our outreach. And we also, that's something, it was kind of exciting because we got it in about 6 months, and it can take up to a year and a half in some cases. And so that was one of those things where, you know, it came in quicker than we thought, and it is allowing us to do a lot more already.
That's great. Congratulations. And Kira, do you have a major victory?
Yeah, I'm just so blown away right now by everyone's stories and how far they've come, whether you're speaking as an organization or just an individual. So just kind of like very at a loss for words right now. I would say that my biggest victory is probably, I mean, aside from successfully doing certain food recoveries, because like that process of orchestrating it is pretty elaborate sometimes. I would say the people-to-people connections that I've made thus far with the people that I've helped. I remember there was this one time, I'm going to try not to get brought to tears because it was like a very emotional moment. It was one of the first food recoveries and distributions that I had done ever as an organization. And we're very small scale, so it's not like there's a lot of people. It doesn't get very disconnected yet. And one of the people who had come came up to me and just kind of broke down with me and told me their story and how much they appreciated like the work that we were doing. And so it meant a lot for me to know that it was helping. And then in the same way, it was just such a personal connection that I hold very dearly. It's something that reminds me every day, like why I want to keep doing this work, no matter how hard it gets, no matter how much bureaucracy comes, you know, no matter how much bureaucracy I have to go through, or like, you know, all the hard work, I guess, that moment is something that I cling on to a lot to remind me why I'm doing everything I'm doing.
Thank you, Kira. And I also resonate with how you started, the feeling speechless and awe of the stories people are sharing. I agree, and thank you for bringing that up. And so Aria, do you have a major victory to share?
Kind of similar to Kira. I think for me, it's not really any moments in particular, but it's just, I think the mutual happiness when you see someone that you used to be friends with on Skid Row that you haven't seen in months, and they recognize you and you recognize them and you find each other. And in those moments, it is just, it means a lot, because the ability for relationships, I think, to sustain over such a long amount of time, and for those supportive networks to still exist after months, and so much can happen in just a week on Skid Row. So I think it's moments like those that are really just important, because it demonstrates why we need to be consistent and why we need to keep on returning, and why we can't be like some other orgs that I see that will do outreach once or twice a year and then they leave, or they'll, you know, be around for a month and they'll forge relationships and then they'll disappear. That's what we've been trying to combat. And so I think just seeing the effects that it can have when you don't do that, and when you do really consistently show up, has probably been the greatest success for us.
Thank you. Yeah, I agree. I think a common thread we're seeing with a lot of these stories is the power of relationships. And that's really what a lot of our work is community building. And so I think it's great that some of the more positive experiences that people had are directly related to their social connections, their relationship and community building. Something we need a lot more of, especially in Los Angeles, where we're all in our cars and our little bubbles. So yeah, thank you. So now I'd like to do, and also I just wanted to encourage any questions that you may have for panelists, you can put them in the chat and we'll have time at the end to go through those if any audience members have questions. And also panelists, if you feel like you want to respond to somebody, as long as you're not interrupting, feel free to jump in and get in dialogue with each other. But so next, I wanted to ask everyone a similar question, but what was a major setback or an obstacle that you faced in either your lived experience or in your work? And if you got past that obstacle, how did you do it? So I think this time, maybe I'll start with the students this time. Katie, do you have a major obstacle?
Yes, so I think that's something that actually happened pretty recently that posed a big obstacle for us, was that we were planning an event with the mayor's office to do a hydration day to bring attention to the existing water fountains and resources available down by Skid Row. Because in our talks with the mayor's office, we kind of came to the conclusion that not enough work had been done to make sure that community members knew that these fountains were A, safe, and B, like there for them, and not just, you know, some weird city infrastructure that suddenly appeared on their street. And so the goal was to have an event where we shared information and maps of where the fountains are, and we shared reusable bottles and that kind of thing to promote the sustainability side of it. But then we kind of realized as a team that in order to do that, the fountains had to be in a condition that we were perfectly comfortable with and proud of. And we realized that the city was not keeping up their end of the deal on that one, because a lot of the fountains were clogged beyond the point of use, or didn't work, or the button was gone and you had to stick your finger like 3 inches inside to get it to work. And all of those things just pose, you know, significant obstacles, because, you know, if you see a sink that's clogged and murky, you're not going to think that it's safe to drink from, and you're not going to want to use it. And so we had to pull back from doing that event and kind of put a lot more pressure on the city to maintain accountability and make sure that the maintenance on those is being done to make sure that they are safe and usable for everyone. So that was an event we were definitely like looking forward to as far as just community interaction and education, but hopefully it will still happen one day once there's more service and once that relationship is repaired.
Thank you. Yeah, I can only imagine how difficult it is working with local government, and I think it's great that you guys stuck to your mission, your values, and yeah, I think that's impressive. Thank you. Paris, do you have a major roadblock that you'd like to share?
I think that kind of when I went to Sanctuary of Hope, we kind of created like a game plan that would like help me get back on my feet. And one of the biggest things was employment. So I just kept feeling like, oh my gosh, like I'm just never going to secure a job that makes enough money. Like basically I'm never going to secure a job that makes enough money that will like outweigh like my bills and where I'll still have money to save. So I felt like I'm just going to be stuck in this position forever. So I think that just searching for like a solid end of employment, because it's like, even if you are out of the position, you're gonna have to pay rent somewhere, you know, whether it's a roommate, whether it's on your own. And it's like, I needed that form of employment. And that was a really big roadblock for me, because I was like applying to everywhere and I wasn't getting calls back. And it's like really discouraging. Then like, I just went into like a panic, because I was like, oh my gosh, like, you know, like I'm about to have a bachelor's degree and I'm still not getting calls back. So I was like, I don't know what I'm gonna do. That's like the biggest roadblock, I think, because it's like everything takes money. So how can you live if you're not making any? So yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I think Yeah, appreciate you sharing. And yeah, employment is obviously very, very important for a sustainable life. And it's difficult to you. So sorry, I'm fumbling because I'm just like everyone, I'm just in awe of people's stories. Sorry. Um, how about Kira? Do you have a major roadblock to share?
Sure. So I would say the biggest roadblock would have to do with being a small organization trying to address a pretty niche population. It does get difficult to, I guess, streamline certain processes and getting food in the right places, especially because food, especially when it's perishable, requires refrigeration and other infrastructure that as a student organization, I don't have access to. And so it becomes difficult to address the need when it happens because sometimes I don't have the resource right when the need is there. I think it's amazing what Katie and Arya were saying. They were saying it was a direct need, so right when it happened, they had the water. I think that's the most difficult thing to do with food is because food has to be in a certain temperature, otherwise it might go bad. And the worst thing to do is to give someone who needs food poisoning. So I would say that's probably the biggest struggle when it comes to providing access to healthy food options, because dry goods are always an option. Those are safe bets, boxed foods. But it's really the fresh produce and fruits and vegetables that I really want to break down barriers to.
Thank you, Kira. And Maya, do you have a major roadblock that you'd like to share with us?
Yes. I agree with Paris, but my roadblock honestly is really sad, but it's like my family. Like my family is like the biggest thing that could really just set me back. Like I said, I try to live on an everyday basis. I try to like live a stressful day, like a stress-free. Like I don't want to be like, like, so it's like the only thing that could really get me upset is my mother, like my family, like disowning me, like being disowned from them, like feeling abandoned from them or something. Like I feel like I do better without my family. I don't know. I think that's the biggest thing about me. Like I'm really independent. Like being in the system really did something else to me to the point where I felt like I just gotta, I don't know. I don't feel like there's nothing really blocking me besides my family. It's crazy. It's really crazy. I feel like that's the only thing that's blocking me.
Thank you, Maya. Really appreciate you sharing. And if we can, Arya. Arya, do you have a major roadblock you'd like to share?
I think one of the biggest things personally and for our team has just been sexism. Our leadership team is 5 women. We're all in our 20s, and dealing with the mix of, I think, ageism and sexism that comes along the way of men from partner organizations harassing us, or even like we drive big U-Hauls to pick up the water every weekend, dealing with people at U-Haul making comments like, oh, you girls are really going to drive this thing, and it's like, we do this every week multiple times, has just been really frustrating. And it's been a recurring theme since the beginning and hasn't really gotten any better. But I think it's something that we all as women learn to tolerate. Unfortunately, we shouldn't have to, but we do.
Thank you for bringing that up. I think Katie has something to say.
I was just going to add on to that kind of the sexism and various barriers that we've faced have just led to us becoming even more strong as a team and supporting each other even more, because these are shared experiences, and it's something that you can't really get through alone. And I think everyone in this virtual room can agree that this can be really emotionally taxing work that doesn't just go away when you know, sign off of your email every night. And so just making sure that we're all there to support each other and have a community beyond the work that we do has been really important to our team.
Yeah, again, relationship building. It's all about relationship building, community building. And yeah, I mean, sexism and racism affects every part of our lives, and and so unfortunately, even when you're providing a service, you're still being discriminated against. And I as I don't know what to say to that, unfortunately. Um, s- does anyone else want to share something like, since we're talking about, you know, intersectionality, do any other panelists have something they'd like to share about that experience, either being a woman, a person of color, or marginalized community, and how it further affects either your work or your lived experience? Okay. Well, all right. That's all right. We don't have to. So we're we're getting towards the end of our time, so I wanted to do a round of um, maybe two things. One, is there a really valuable lesson that you learned from your experience? And what's something that you want, like a message you would like to share with this group? If they walk away from this meeting and they only learned one thing, even though I'm sure they've learned a lot, but what would be your message to the audience? And let's start with uh, um, Aria.
I think the biggest thing that I would emphasize is that everyone has the power to do something. We, especially people who are housed, who have the privilege of being housed, can all chip away at this. And no one person is ever going to fix the systemic issues that have created this, but everything counts. And you know, whether that looks like organizing your circles, that's how Katie and I started. It was just a Facebook post on my account that kind of circulated, and that's how we started organizing. It's, you know, you can make sandwiches with your friends, you can make hygiene kits, you can just go check on your unhoused neighbors. There are so many little actions that you can do. And I think that, you know, I'm kind of a pessimist myself, but too often we get caught up in this narrative that there's nothing we can do. And that's just false, because there's so much we can do. And so I think, you know, while we should be pushing for legislative action, it's important. It can make a change, but it takes time. It's extremely bureaucratic. Not all of us have the resources to do that, the knowledge to do that. And so while we're also pushing for those legislative strategies, we need to also address the current crisis and address urgent needs. And that's what I think in academia and academic spaces in general, people get so detached from, is that, you know, they study these things, they read about it in the news, but they forget that they also have a responsibility to address it now, currently. And so I think I'm kind of preaching to the choir, but that's the one thing that I would really emphasize.
Thank you, Aria. Yes, I agree. I'm also in my classes, we talk a lot about theory and we talk about policy and we look at research papers, and some of them are very old, and we don't talk enough about specific work you can do today, right now. So thank you for bringing that up. Um, Paris, would you like to share either a lesson you learned or a message that you'd like to impart?
I think mine falls in with both a lesson and a message. I guess like just really focusing on your mental health. I think that that's something that we can all take away. Even how Katie said, like it's not like as far as like their work, it's not work where you just, you know, once you close your email, you're done for the day, but it's work that dwells on your head. And I think that anyone can take that with any life situation, that we just sometimes forget the aspect of mental health until it's too late, or until like we're already like in this frantic state. So just like those self-care practices, whatever your self-care practices are, and just remain insane and doing whatever it takes to remain sane. I'm a strong believer in like manifestation and like speaking positivity into the universe. So just those practices. Also vulnerability. I think that everyone just being vulnerable, even how I think it was Arya that talked about like sexism, like just being vulnerable in those spaces, because we never know like who knows who that can help or what can help. So I think like a lot of times like we're always like we got it, and we don't really want to be vulnerable about things that are sensitive to us, but sometimes vulnerability like can help. I know in my situation it definitely helped, and it was something that I tried to avoid to do for around 2 months, and if I would have done it sooner, then I would have been out the situation sooner. So that's something that I always try to think of, just vulnerability. And I never want to get back in that headspace that I was in. So definitely like mental health. So those are my 2 takeaways.
Thank you, Paris. Those are great takeaways. I think we all agree mental health is incredibly important, and self-care. I'm glad you brought up self-care. We should all have self-care practices. We should all be doing them, especially in this past year where it's been difficult to connect with people. Self-care has become even more important. Katie, do you have a lesson you learned or message to share?
I honestly just want to amplify everything that has been said already instead of imparting more wisdom. I think that, you know, Paris and Aria, your points that you both just made are amazing, and things that we should all definitely remember. And especially Aria's point that it doesn't have to be some big gesture or starting an organization. It can literally just be like, you know, 2 hours out of your day that you get a case of water, or even just when you're driving around, you can have things in your car to just, you know, give to anyone who's looking or asking. And so I feel like there's so many little things that we can all do to be better neighbors and better community members, without having to take on more responsibility.
Thank you, Katie. Yeah, I agree. Maya, do you have a lesson you learned or a message you'd like to share? Oh, Maya, I think you're muted if you started talking.
My bad. I feel like, well, they already said it. Like, yeah, they had some good. They took right, man. Oh my gosh, what I'm gonna say? Okay. I think you should make sure yourself is like your emotional. Like, I feel like emotional wise, you should make sure you should check up on that too. Like, you should make sure you're emotional okay with yourself. Like, because I feel like, I just feel like it's within yourself before anything, honestly. So yeah, they said it. Hey.
Thank you, Maya. Yeah, I agree. Some great points have already been shared, but I'm still gonna put Kira in the hot seat to come up with a lesson or message.
Yeah, I mean, what else to say? Those are 2 that cover
That's
just
the main
about exactly. But I mean, I think what who was it that said it? Oh, I can't even remember, but it's so important to rely on your social networks. I think one thing, I remember what I was going to say. That it's so important to remember that you can do the most in your own community because you know it best. I think the message, or when we were talking about, you know, learning these big issues, these big theories, learning about these huge case studies of these things that happen, we get so detached and far away from the issue, like something happening in, I don't know, New York, because I'm in California. something happening in New York, it's amazing to care about the issue and be empathetic with it, but to remember that the people closest to you are the people you can help the most. I think that's the message that I want to impart, is to stay local and stay within your own little circles.
Yeah, I think that's incredibly important and powerful, because it's also similar to what everyone's been saying of small tasks are just as important as the big tasks, and those small tasks are most impactful when it's your own community and directly around you, and it's also more easily accessible. So also with that, I wanted, does Maria have are you raising your hand, Maria? Yeah, okay. Do you have a question?
No, I want to say something too. So
Okay.
just similar to Maya's situation, Kamaya, I was in foster care myself for 7.5 years. And that was my second time in foster care. So I know how that is. It was hard having different social workers. I feel like the thing, they didn't care. They didn't want to like help me out. They only cared about the money and like, what did you get from it? It was like a really messed up, situation that I was in. I was in a bad situation with my foster parents as well, and like that. But, like I was almost homeless too when I emancipated, but I was blessed to actually get opportunities to live somewhere and not be homeless. So like I came a long way from that person when I was like at 21 to now I'm about to be 30. So yeah, it's tough and hard. And that's one of the reasons why too, I was going to school so I could get my bachelor's in sociology and then be master's so I could be a social worker. Because I feel like the system is still messed up and we need to change something about that. And just like, and I continue to help people on a daily basis. And like, when I see somebody on the streets, I'll give them water, like, they're homeless, I'll help them out and like that. So I'm very like these young ladies who spoke, I'm very motivated by them. They are inspiration. And, just to keep your head up, keep going, keep your head up. Don't ever give up. Don't ever give up, because it will get better. It might seem like it not right now, but it will get better. Just keep pushing forward, because you can do it. You can honestly do it. And it might take a while, but at least you're on the right path. At least you're motivated by yourself to go ahead and keep going and like, make something better and just be, just be the inspiration you are to yourself. So I just wanted to like, share a little bit about myself too. And, like a lot of the youth who come through our door, because I'm the intake coordinator, so I'm the first point of contact with a lot of the youth. So a lot of the youth who come to our door, I like, hear their stories and they open up to me. And, I let them know, like, you're not alone. We're here for you, for your support. And you can come to us, even if it's just a phone call, you want to talk to somebody, even if it's just an hour, we'll be on the phone, you need to vent, that's what we're here for. And I continue to help people and help others. Because I don't mind, because that's what we're here for. And, even though I went through that, I still continue to help people because I don't want them to go through the same situation I went through, or I don't want them to continue to go through the same situation. And I want them to be resilient and, have somewhere to stay and be stable and, continue to be successful, because that's what we believe in. And that's what we see each youth to be so resilient and successful. So I just feel like that these youth are very inspiration and like they're very motivated and they're so resilient. So that's all I wanted to say. I work for Sanctuary of Hope too.
Thank you. That was nice, because often, sometimes when growing up in foster care, it's like a lot of people did it. So it's like you still want to act regular, like, because don't nobody owe you nothing, so you still want to act regular. You don't want to act like, oh, I hate this world or this world. You don't want to do that to yourself. You really don't want to push nobody away from you. You just don't, like, but it's like when you've been through it, it's harder to understand when you have not been through it. Mm-hmm. It is to have like you going through it. So yeah.
Thank you, Maya. That actually makes me think of something. Do people with lived experience have any do they have any suggestions for those of us that want to provide the service work for how we could be better?
I feel like first foremost, I feel like if you going to do it, I feel like really do it from the heart, because it's when you in the dealing with kids that's been through the system, honestly, it's a lot of broken hearts. That's all it is. It's a lot of broken hearts, a lot of kids that's really emotionally scarred. It's just a lot. Like people really think that, hey, I'm gonna get this kid, I'm gonna be a foster parent, right? I'm gonna have these kids come in the house, whatever. It's really different type of personalities in these kids and these children, and people can't take them personalities. And a lot of people only look at it as, oh, we just want like the money or whatever it is, or we don't care what they do, or shoot, it's not my kid, or like they do that, they go that way about it. But it's different because it's like you really gotta care, you really gotta understand, because you gotta make these kids feel like they can trust you, like for real. You really gotta make these kids feel like they can trust you, because when you're dealing in a system, you can't trust nobody. It's like it's just all these people. You're going from this place to that place. They want to take you this home. You just like dang, like who really loved me? Like you don't have that feeling of being loved. Like, oh yeah, of course, when you first come into a foster home, they're going to do it up. They're going to have the baskets ready for you, like a welcome treat. They're going to have it, everything. As soon as the social workers leave, it's a wrap. Like, so like all of this is really like, it's just like, they're two-faced to me. Like, like it's just, all this is just two-faces. It's like behind the scenes. It's a whole other scene behind it. So I feel like anybody who want to be like offer any help, I feel like you really just got to really care. Like you gotta care, because if you don't care, if you're doing it just for the funds, I mean, you're not gonna get blessed, because all you're doing is harming these kids. These kids, kids can't put themselves in the system. My mama to this day, she still swear up and down, I put myself and my little brothers in the system. Kids cannot put themselves in the system. They can't get themselves out either. It's either they're gonna sit in there until the expiration date, or you're gonna get your kid out. It's not like these kids don't have these choices. Like, so it's like you really gotta care. That's what I really think it is. Nothing else matters to me. I feel like you just gotta care. Like,
yeah. Thank you, Maya. I'm sorry we're out of time and we're starting to lose some audience members. So I just wanted to plug a couple things. We are doing, we're trying to collect items and resources for the Sanctuary of Hope and another youth agency called SPY. So SPY has an Amazon wish list of some basic needs for their organization that we will share in the chat. And Sanctuary of Hope, Tiana, if you'd like to speak a little bit about Sanctuary of Hope. And one thing that we're trying to provide for them is Uber and Lyft certificates or token, I don't know what you call them, like, but a lot of youth that they work with have to travel far distances around the city between where they live, where they work, where they receive service, and Uber and Lyft are really the only safe way to do that, because public transport is not the best resource for at-risk youth.
Right, that's true. And then since we have, I guess since Maya and Paris are on the phone, they might be able to share as our youth what it is they feel like they need. For some of our youth who are housed, they might need household items, maybe Target gift cards or Walmart gift cards, or like hygiene kits. And then we work with families also. So we just had actually a mother give birth a couple days ago. So she's gonna need things for her baby.
Yeah, so I'll be connecting with, let me put my email in for everybody. I will be connecting with Tiana to organize that, and if you all are willing to share with your networks so we can get the word out and really provide some things for both orgs, that would be amazing. One other thing, we have an event on Friday at 2 p.m. The last event of our Homelessness Awareness Week. It's going to be a student showcase of students sharing art or music or whatever it is that inspires them on the theme of housing is a human right. So also to panelists, if you would like to participate in that, let me know. I will send you guys the link after we sign off. Is there just, I'm sorry, we're already over time, but are there any last thoughts or audience questions that people have while we're here?
I do just want to thank you, Jake, for putting this conversation together. I think it was educational and very informative. I think you gave our youth the space to really share their story, because oftentimes people want to tell them what they need and what they need to do. And when people get to hear their experience, I think it changes the perspective, and people have a better idea of if they want to help, how they can go about it. Because it's all about perspective. And I think Kamaya or Paris might have shared this. I'm not for sure which one said it, but unless you've really lived their experience, you don't know. I mean, those two teach me so much. They really do. They're both full of wisdom. So every time I have a conversation, and even Maria, every time I have a conversation with them, I'm learning something about myself or about the world. And it just really, I think, helps develop and grow you as a person. So I want to thank the panelists and Maria for just sharing and being so honest, because the girls are so honest. And I always tell them at that age, I wasn't brave enough to really share, or I don't know if I would have been able to share, but they do it so effortlessly. So I'm proud of them all. And proud of you too, Jake, for putting this together.
And also thank you to USG, the undergraduate student government, for helping us organize this week of events. And thank you, Tiana, because everything you just said wouldn't have been possible without you connecting us with Paris and Maya. So thank you to you. And thank you, Brenda, the director of the USC Homelessness Initiative, who's putting this week of events on with USG. I think I thanked everybody. And thank you, panelists, again for being so open and candid. And I think we all learned a lot from being here today. And I really appreciate everybody, you know, really coming with an open mind and heart and sharing. So thank you. This was great. All right. Unless Brenda, if you have anything, or we could maybe call it. And yeah, we'll be in. Yeah, and also check the chat for some of those links to people's orgs and to the basic needs for students. And yeah, thank you, everyone, and have a great rest of your day. And thank you.